Ladies and gentlemen, there are stories that find their way into the deepest hollows of our hearts, not because they are filled with grand victories or glittering heroes, but because they remind us of simple truths we've known all along. Today, I stand to speak of such a story where the bravest man in town carried no gun, where innocence sang from the trees, and where the strongest hearts belonged to those often overlooked. To kill a mockingbird is more than paper and ink bound together. It's a mirror that shows us the fragile threads holding together justice, kindness, and human dignity. In the quiet corners of that town, under the warm southern sun, lived mockingbirds, symbols of innocence, of those who only wish to sing their song and harm no soul. Yet time and again, we see those birds silenced by fear, ignorance, and the cold grip of prejudice. But see, the tale doesn't just tell us about loss. It speaks of courage, the kind that doesn't shout from rooftops, but walks with steady steps down lonely roads. Sometimes it wears spectacles and defends the defenseless. Sometimes it hides behind curious eyes of a child, watching the world try to make sense of what is right and what is easy. We learn that standing for truth often means standing alone. We learn that justice, much like the mockingbird, is delicate, easily wounded, but worth protecting. And we learn that kindness isn't weakness, but the quiet resolve to treat every soul with dignity, no matter how the world may choose to divide us. The story leaves us with a question that lingers long after the last page turns. Will we be the ones who raise our voices when innocence is threatened? Or will we, too, stand silent while mockingbirds fall? In every town, behind every closed door, there is a choice. May we always choose to protect the song. Thank you. The loss of innocence is not a moment that arrives with grand fanfare. It creeps in quietly, in the spaces between words left unspoken, in the heavy silences that follow when truth is revealed too soon. It is the weight that settles upon a child's shoulders the first time they realize the world is not as fair, as gentle, or as simple as they once believed. Innocence is not just about being young. It is about holding on to the belief that good and bad are clearly drawn lines, that justice always prevails, and that kindness is met with kindness. But life has a way of testing these beliefs, and often the lessons come before we're ready to learn them. In the world we grow up imagining, right and wrong feel like distant cousins, easy to tell apart by the way they walk into a room. But life blurs those lines. The first time you watch someone judged not by the content of their character, but by the color of their skin, by the sound of their last name, or by the side of town they live on, a part of that innocence fades. You learn all at once that fairness is a lovely idea, but it is not always practiced. And that realization leaves a mark deeper than any physical wound. For a child, there is a certain magic in believing that adults have all the answers, that they will protect you from the shadows lurking beyond the porch light. But then comes the day you see those same adults struggle, fail, or turn away from what's right because they are scared, tired, or unwilling to stand alone. That is the day the foundation cracks beneath your feet, when you start to understand that courage is not inherited, it is chosen. And sometimes those you thought would lead with it fall silent, leaving you to navigate the storm. The loss of innocence is also recognizing that the world is not divided into heroes and villains, as the bedtime stories promise. People carry both the light and the dark, woven together like threads in the same cloth. The man you admire for his strength may falter. The one dismissed as weak may rise when it matters most. You come to see that people's actions cannot be painted in black or white alone, but are layered with doubt, fear, pride, and sometimes quiet, unshakable goodness that goes unnoticed. Children often believe in the idea that justice is served cleanly, swiftly, and always on the side of the innocent. But the loss of innocence teaches otherwise. It shows that sometimes justice is tangled in the roots of prejudice, choked by ignorance, or buried beneath the loudest voices in the room. You witness good men punished while the guilty walk free. It bruises the spirit, watching fairness become a casualty of power and fear. And yet, even amidst that bruising, a quiet lesson unfolds, that standing for what's right often means standing in the minority, perhaps even standing alone. You begin to see the mockingbirds, the innocent ones who never harmed a soul, who only sang their songs, fall to the ground, victims of cruelty they never earned. Their wings clipped not by mistake, but by the sharpened words and judgments of those who refuse to see beyond their own fears. Every time a mockingbird falls, a little more of the world's innocence falls with it. And for those who bear witness, especially the young, the heart hardens in places it once held soft wonder. But there is another side to losing innocence, as painful as it may be. It makes space for a deeper understanding, a strength that does not come from ignorance, but from eyes wide open. You learn that kindness is not naive. It is a deliberate choice made after knowing the full weight of cruelty. You learn that empathy, once effortless, now requires courage, because it means opening your heart despite knowing it might break. The loss of innocence does not leave a person empty. It leaves them reshaped, wiser, sometimes quieter, but still capable of hope. In the quiet corners of small towns, beneath the hum of everyday life, the loss of innocence is happening all the time. It's in the courtroom where justice bends under pressure. It's in the whispers of neighbors who turn away from what makes them uncomfortable. It's in the eyes of children watching adults make choices they cannot yet understand. And though it seems small, like drops of rain against a wide rooftop, each of those moments matters. They carve the people we become. Sometimes the greatest loss of innocence comes not from what is done to us, but from what we witness done to others, the friend judged unfairly, the stranger treated as less, the mockingbird silenced. We begin to question not only the world, but our place within it. Are we brave enough to protect the song? Do we have the courage to see the flaws and still believe in fighting for better? The loss of innocence strips away the comfort of simplicity, but it offers the chance to grow into someone who understands that justice is not guaranteed. It is built moment by those who refuse to stay silent. And so, the loss of innocence may seem like an end, but it is also a beginning. The first steps towards seeing the world as it is, and deciding whether to accept it or change it. The courage to stand alone is perhaps one of the most misunderstood strengths a person can possess. It does not come draped in applause or wrapped in the comfort of agreement. It rarely feels heroic in the moment. More often it feels heavy, uncertain, and lonely. But it is in those quiet, uncomfortable spaces, when the crowd turns away, when friends fall silent, when the easy road beckons, that true courage reveals itself. It is the choice to stay rooted in what is right, even when the world around you insists you are wrong. Throughout life, there will be moments when you find yourself standing at that crossroad, looking around for someone to reassure you, to walk beside you, to echo your convictions. Sometimes they will be there, but many times they won't. And in those moments, standing your ground feels less like bravery and more like isolation. But what you must remember is that every person who ever shifted the course of justice, every soul who ever protected the innocent, every voice that broke through the silence, they all started by standing alone. The world often teaches us that strength is in numbers, in unity, in the swell of the crowd moving as one. But the deepest kind of strength lies within the individual, who chooses to hold steady even when no one else does. It is not loud, it is not always seen, but it is unshakable. That is the courage we speak of, the courage to defend the voiceless, to shield the mockingbird, to speak truth in the face of lies, even when your voice quivers, even when your knees shake. And yes, it will be easier to look away, It will be tempting to remain quiet, to let the tide of injustice wash over while you keep your feet dry. But easy choices rarely lead to meaningful change. It takes grit to speak when silence is safer. It takes resolve to protect the song when others pretend not to hear. But those small acts of defiance, those solitary stands, are the seeds from which justice grows. You may find that standing alone today plants courage in others tomorrow. Your quiet bravery might be the reason someone else finds their voice, takes their stand, defends what matters. And slowly, what began as one lonely figure transforms into a gathering of hearts that refuse to bend to fear, prejudice, or hatred. It is worth remembering that some of the most profound truths are carried not by crowds, but by individuals, those who dare to live by principle when it's neither popular nor easy. The mockingbird needs defenders not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's dangerous. And if that means standing alone, then so be it. Because in that moment of solitude, you are never truly alone. You stand beside every person, past and present, who made the same choice to protect innocence, to uphold dignity, to guard the fragile hope that justice can prevail. In the end, courage is not measured by the noise you make or the recognition you receive. It is measured by the quiet, stubborn decision to do what's right, even if you stand alone. And sometimes, that is enough to change everything.